You know, one of the big downsides of being president of the United States of America is that some foreign power is always trying to kill you. Some second-rate, third-tier country is always trying to assassinate you. But the good thing about being president of the United States is that you have the world's largest, most well-trained, and lethal fighting force with which you can go hunt down those people and kill them before they kill you. And that's exactly what President Donald Trump did.
Also, yesterday, the leader of the unit who attempted to assassinate President Trump has been hunted down and killed. Iran tried to kill President Trump, and President Trump got the last laugh.
That's right. Anyway, I was Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War for the United States of America, saying, hey, by the way, we hunted down the assassin of President Donald Trump and we took him out. You tried to assassinate me, but I assassinated you first. So kiss my assassination. That is something that, and again, I look at Donald Trump, according to Secretary Hegseth, that wasn't one of Donald Trump's motives. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That wasn't why Donald Trump mounted this offensive in Iran. It was, of course, to keep them from ever getting nuclear weapons. It was to keep America and the rest of the world safe. It was to stifle one of the most brutal, horrible, disgusting, and evil terrorist regimes to ever walk the face of the earth, to ever hold rank in any country ever. I mean, these people were just, as Marco Rubio said, they were lunatic, maniacal, fundamentalist, religious fundamentalists who chanted death to America. It was to stop all that. But as a side note, or as an added benefit, or as a perk, he could also kill the people who wanted to kill him before they did. And in the Senate, by the way, wasn't nobody going to stop President Donald Trump. They knew not only was this, okay, kind of personal, but they also knew this was necessary. And they knew that President Donald Trump did something that no other president has ever done. No other president has had the wherewithal, aka cojones, to go in and finish the job that many other presidents have said should have been. I mean, look, everyone's in agreement. Joe Biden said Iran should not have nuclear weapons. Actually, what Joe Biden said was don't. What do you tell Iran if they try to make nuclear weapons? Don't. You remember that one? I gotta find that clip. Kamala Harris parroted the whole thing too. That was it. That was Joe Biden's entire Iran foreign policy was don't. One word, not even two. It could have been do not. It could have been two words, but they made it easier for him. His entire foreign policy was boiled down to one word, which was don't. And not only did he say it, but he pushed it out to his vice president too. Here's Peter. Let's take a little trip down memory lane. This is an impromptu trip down memory lane. Here we go.
Neil, just out of that briefing with the press secretary and also Secretary Mayorkas and the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and the crux of it was that just because nobody is known to be killed from the ballistic missile attack in Israel does not mean that the United States government is taking this lightly.
This is a significant escalation by Iran, a significant event, and it is equally significant that we were able to step up with Israel and create a situation in which no one was killed in this attack in Israel so far as we know at this time. We are now going to look at what the appropriate next steps are to secure first and foremost American interests and then to promote stability to the maximum extent possible as we go forward.
That guy was the worst.
It has been well documented over the last couple months that President Biden and Vice President Harris have put out the word publicly to the Ayatollah in Iran, don't. And now we know that the Ayatollah does not listen to them. We also know that since President Biden took office, his administration several times has unfrozen accounts that add up to billions of dollars of Iranian money for the Iranian government to have access to. They have said that that is for humanitarian reasons, and they are insisting today that they still have the most muscular posture possible towards Iran.
We have not lifted a single sanction. If anything, as I said moments ago, we increase pressure.
President Biden says he is going to talk to Netanyahu. They've been in somewhat regular communication since October 7th, almost a full year ago, but they're not talking all the time. So the two of them are expected to have some kind of a chat about next steps.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Don't. That was his entire posture. What do you say? What do you say to Iran if they proliferate nuclear weapons? Where is it? I'm trying to see if we have the actual quote of him saying don't. And Kamala Harris, oh, here we go. This may be it. Here we go.
Don't.
Yeah, here it is.
What is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran? Don't. Don't.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
It was very important to send a very clear message to anyone who might seek to take advantage of the conflict in Gaza to threaten our personnel here or anywhere else in the region. Don't do it.
What is your...
So there you go. Don't. That was his entire foreign policy. Donald Trump has a much different tact. He has a different foreign policy. He actually sends negotiators out there and he says, hey, listen, we're going to bomb the snot out of you unless you stop trying to enrich uranium for nuclear weapons. We're going to destroy every single nuclear reactor you have, every enrichment facility, all your uranium deposits. They're going to be unrecognizable. And if you continue after that to do it, we're going to come after you and just basically just kill you. So so would you like to sit down and negotiate? And then when Iran says, no, we don't want to negotiate, then Donald Trump goes, okay, I'm going to do everything that I just told you I was going to do. And then he goes and does it. That's a much stronger posture. And that is something that really is the difference. But that's one of the many differences between Joe Biden's administration and President Donald Trump's administration. And that is why, despite the fact that you had some senators balking at President Donald Trump using his constitutional authority to invade Iran and to take out their nuclear weapons and their senior leadership, despite the fact that you had some people in the Congress doing it, Donald Trump, it was not pulled back or stopped by the Senate yesterday. They voted overwhelmingly with only one Republican defector and one Democrat supporter. You probably know who both of those are. Coming out, for the resolution.
On this, the yeas are 47, the nays are 53. The motion to discharge is not approved.
Okay, so there you go. The motion to discharge was not approved. Now, FYI, it was Rand Paul who voted with the Democrats, and it was John Fetterman who voted with the Republicans. Hang on, I'm out of focus here, so I don't know why I'm out of focus. Let me fix that quick because I don't want to be blurry. Although I will say this, when I'm out of focus, I look a lot younger because you can't see some of these wrinkles and age crevices that have been moving in. But I digress. So Donald Trump said, look, we're going to move forward with this. The Senate said, go ahead. And now the House is about to vote. But I'm going to be honest with you. The House, it may be a little tougher. It may be a little tougher in the House because you've got more people who are going to vote with the Democrats. We know Thomas Massie will. We know there may be one or two others. In the House of Representatives with such a narrow majority, it does give more people more power. Thomas Massie knows that if, depending on attendance and depending on what else is going on, he could sway the vote and vote for the blocking of the War Powers Act. So there's a lot at stake here. And if Thomas Massie votes against President Donald Trump, I imagine Truth Social will be lit up with some very exciting words for Thomas Massie. Now, Donald Trump getting some support from an unlikely place, The View. Sarah Haynes and Elizabeth Hasselbeck, who, correct me if I'm wrong, Elizabeth Hasselbeck started on The View. She was one of the originals. She was the original Republican voice. She got her start on Survivor, and then she went to The View, and then she couldn't take it anymore because those people were horrible. And so now what they're going to do is they're going to bring her back, I guess, because the other one's on maternity leave. But Elizabeth Hasselbeck and Sarah Haynes kind of jumped all over Sunny Hostin because of the back and forth about the troops who were killed and putting them on the front page and the press's reaction to all that.
In regard to what Sunny's saying about it being a legal war, every modern president since Reagan has done this in attacks from Syria, Libya, Bosnia, Panama. So it happens continually to give it context. The other thing is the travel.
What does?
That Congress has ceded this power a long time ago. And I have a lot of criticisms on Congress, and this is one of them. If you want to be part of the conversation, don't hand your power over to the presidents, which they have done. Two, the travel policy. I wanted to look this up because there are a lot of Americans stranded. It ends up since the 70s that the government has put countries on certain warning labels like beware, but also it is not the government's responsibility. They won't have the capacity to bring everyone back. They've changed that because that number was not, they had a number you were supposed to call that.
Yeah, the numbers.
That was different.
Yeah.
But then the last thing is, the other day I talked about how whereas administrations change, and it's always political. I trust often the generals in the military.
That's amazing.
74 retired U.S. generals and admirals came out endorsing this operation and saying that since its inception 47 years ago, they have been, this regime has endangered the lives of U.S. troops, diplomats, civilians across the Middle East and here at home. Death to America, death to Israel is a chant they have used over and over. I trust that these career military generals, you can't become a general if you haven't served your whole time. These career generals have seen stuff we have not seen. And the fact that they're coming out to say, you guys, this needed to happen, I do trust that.
Okay, so she trusts the generals. She trusts the generals because they've been there for a very long time. She trusts the generals, but not the commander-in-chief. Think about this. The generals are the generals that she's trusting. The generals that are in place are the generals that the commander-in-chief put there. Donald Trump, when he came, the generals under Joe Biden were not the generals that we have now. A whole crop of generals. Whole new crop of generals. So Sarah Haynes, while she's pro action in Iran, and while she's trying to support reluctantly President Donald Trump, not actually supporting him, but saying, look, if the generals are for it, I'm for it. But what she doesn't realize is that Raisin Kane, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he was nowhere near. He was in the battle. He was in Iraq. Donald Trump landed on the ground one, what was it, Thanksgiving or Christmas, and met him. And now he's elevated to the highest position. He was never in this position before. He was a general, but he wasn't the kind that was making the decisions. Donald Trump put him in that position. Secretary Hegseth, Pete Hegseth was doing, not even Fox and Friends. He was doing Fox and Friends Weekend. He was writing books about his glory days in the military. Donald Trump said, you're the guy for the job, put him up, made him Secretary of Defense, and boom, all of a sudden, we have a thriving, lethal, technologically advanced fighting force that can do this kind of thing. That was Donald Trump's choice. So she's like, I don't trust Donald Trump, but I trust the generals. Lady, the generals are only there because of President Donald Trump. But the fact of the matter is that, yes, the War Powers Act, which you can argue the constitutionality of, was not violated here. And Elizabeth Hasselbeck jumps into the fight as well.
Can I ask you, I think we are agreeing that they should all go with honor, be received with honor, because they serve with honor. They are the best of us are serving for the rest of us, and that they have my heart for life. Right. I want to ask you why you keep calling this like an undocumented attack, that you don't agree with the war, and illegal. Unconstitutional. So did you believe it was illegal in April of 2011 when the Office of Legal Counsel memo stated from President Obama that the president has constitutional authority to direct the use of military force in Libya because he could reasonably determine that such use of force was in the national interest prior. Congressional approval was not constitutionally required to use military force in these operations? Where were you then complaining?
I agreed. Well, I wasn't on the show then.
But personally, would you have stood against that?
I was at home complaining. No, I wasn't complaining because the Office of Legal Counsel was involved. And the Office of Legal Counsel...
This came after.
But the Office of Legal Counsel is the office in the Department of Justice, because I worked at the Department of Justice, that reviews these things and makes legal determinations. This president doesn't go through the Office of Legal Counsel. This president does not go to Congress. Congress has the power to to approve wars. This Congress has the power of the purse. This president is acting more like a king than anything else. He is the commander. He's the commander-in-chief, but he is not a king. And so I think that this should have gone through Congress. I think that the American embassies should have been notified so that American citizens in the Middle East would have been able to get to safety. I don't think that this was done appropriately. I maintain that this is illegal and unconstitutional.
Do you like the result? Do you like the result?
No, I don't.
Well, I don't. You would rather the regime head and those 40, 18 leaders.
I think this is going to be a longer conversation. Since this is going to be a longer conversation, we're going to take a break today, and we're going back, and we'll be right back.
Yeah. So there you go. It's interesting to have an actual conservative. Here's the big problem I have with the ladies on The View. I mean, I have lots of problems with the ladies on The View, but here's the big problem I have. They all read. They don't know what they're talking about. They all look down. They look right down at these. And, it used to just be, Sarah Haynes is the worst at it. Sarah Haynes will go, oh yeah, every president has used this. Like, for example, Obama in Somalia and Bill Clinton and blah, 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 and here and there. And she reads like she has no knowledge of it, but some producer hands her a cue card and says, here, say this. And that to me is a disconnect. Take the time to learn, I mean, you're working 1 hour a day. The other 23 hours, you could do a little, knowledge gathering, do a little committing these facts to memory so that you know exactly what you're talking about. Elizabeth Hasselbeck, okay, I mean, she was doing a little bit too. She wanted to get the specifics and then she had it all written down, but at least, get an overview so you can just speak extemporaneously. That's one of the best parts. That's one of the best parts about arguing is when you can pull these facts out quickly. And on I guess you would say on cue, it really does look a lot better. But the fact of the matter is, you got a couple ladies on The View for whatever reason agreeing with President Donald Trump, which is rare, because not only do they hate President Donald Trump, except for Elizabeth Hasselbeck, but they hate everything he stands for and his supporters, which, by the way, the more Donald Trump does, the more his supporters love him. And the only people that are really accurately reporting it are CNN. It's amazing to me. CNN, Jake Tapper and Caitlin Collins will get on there and they'll complain and whine about all this stupid stuff and they'll attack Pete Hegseth and they'll attack Donald Trump. They'll lie. CNN will propagandize like with the best of them for Joe Biden and the Democrats and everyone else for years. Then when Donald Trump comes back to office, they'll try to twist anything he or his staff says into some kind of negative. They'll try to take every action and make it an impeachable offense. But at the end of the day, when they look at the actual reaction from the public or when they look at the polls that they're getting, and Harry Enton goes on there, he has nothing but, I mean, it's amazing. Nothing they do or say is putting a dent in Donald Trump's armor.
Republicans love Donald Trump more than any president's own party supporters loved him at this particular point. Just take a look here. Okay, own party supporters, 21st century presidents, own party approval, about at this point in the second term. Bush was at 77%. Obama was at 77%. Look at this. 86% of Republicans approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing at this point. That is higher than either Obama or Bush had within their own party at this point. Trump's magic touch has not seemed to wear off yet when it comes to the Republican base.
And what kind of approval are we talking about here?
Okay, so we're talking about overall approval here. How about the strongly approved, not just like, but love. Okay, we're going to look at these same presidents again. Strong approval among your own party's base. What you see here is Trump is the only one who gets a majority at this point in their.
It's amazing. Harry Enton, I don't know why he's on CNN, but he'd be great on some other network. Maybe that's what he's vying for. Maybe he's looking to get a job on some other network as one of their superstars. But it's really fascinating to see how much Donald Trump can bolster his own base, which again is not, it benefits him, but it doesn't benefit him. For example, Donald Trump is not directly benefiting from any of this political capital because once again, he's not running for office. We believe he wears the hat, but we don't believe he's running for office. However, he does want to be the person that can wield or direct that political capital wherever he wants to go, because then that gives him the power. Because there are going to be people who are going to be looking at the election in 2028 or looking at the landscape in 2028. And no matter what you think, or no matter what someone else tells you, or no matter what Marjorie Taylor Greene says, all of these people are going to think the one thing. What does Donald Trump want to do? Who does Donald Trump want in this position? Who is Donald Trump supporting? There's a lot of people out there who don't want to go against Donald Trump. They don't want to go against Donald Trump's handpicked, successor, and they don't want Donald Trump on their bad side for whatever reason, because they've seen what happens when you're on his bad side. It is really interesting. I don't remember a time when one political entity was going into the end of their second term. Donald Trump's second term is like a first term for most presidents, but they're going to the end of their second term, and they're doing it with such power, prestige, and political capital. Usually it's the other way around. When somebody leaves office, they almost become irrelevant. Barack Obama was that way in Donald Trump's first term, and then by getting Joe Biden back in office, he found a way to kind of renew his relevance or come back to relevance because, well, he was sitting in the basement controlling Joe Biden. George W. Bush, when he left office and Barack Obama became president, forget about it. He went back we never saw him. You didn't see him forever. He was gone. He was gone and totally forgotten. Nobody knew where he was. Nobody knew what he was doing. Nobody cared about either of those things either. And it was a whole new dawn of a whole new day because you had the first black president. That's all anybody cared about. And when Hillary Clinton, who was never president, but she was Secretary of State, she was so powerful when she was a candidate. She was making hundreds of millions of dollars for her foundation when she was a candidate. But after she was no longer a candidate, after she failed in her quest for the White House, and after she was no longer Secretary of State, after she lost all that access, guess what? Nobody cared about her anymore. And now the only reason people care about her is because they want to know what she knows about her husband and Jeffrey Epstein. That's the only reason people are circulating photos of Hillary Clinton. If I were Hillary Clinton, I'd be glad people were still circulating photos about me, because it's been a while since anybody cared what she was doing. So the House of Representatives is tight. Tim Burchett, by the way, Tim Burchett released a video from the House of Representatives where he's walking around like he does, and he's getting harassed by the vagina ladies, or the pink ladies. What are they called? Code Pink? That's it.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett. Hang on, I'm being harassed by the people in pink. Anyway, the committee had the Undersecretary, Secretary of State answering a lot of questions over various things. But ma'am, I'm trying to do a video.
Oh, you're trying to do it?
Okay. Anyway, we were asking questions about the war and things. It was very informative, but mainly it was about the wasteful spending of the Biden administration for all that crazy transgender stuff, transgender comics and things like that. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So anyway, thank y'all for sending me here.
Ma'am, I'm trying to do a video here. Man, I like that. She's in his face. She's harassed. Ma'am, I'm trying to do a video here. She's like, what? What are you trying to do? By the way, I've been to the Capitol. I've seen these people roaming around. I mean, a lot of people don't realize this, but the Capitol building is an office building. All of these, the Capitol itself is the Capitol building, but where Tim Burchett is and where these committees are, they're in office buildings, offshoots of the Capitol. So, with an office building, as long as you get through security, they can't, it's a public building. It'd be like if you go, downtown and there's a building and you want to go in, or you have a meeting, you go into the building, you get in the elevator, you go to whatever floor you're going to. It's the same thing. If you have a meeting with a congressperson, and this always baffles me, you can show up, you can walk through security, and as long as you have to take your belt off and you have to take all the metal out of your pockets and all the other stuff. And as long as you do that and you get through, and you're not a security risk or anything, then you can just go up and you can wander around the halls, and you can go up to people's offices, and you can go down to the Dunkin' Donuts in the basement, and they got 2 Subways, which is very exciting. You get your hair cut, all these things, because it's an office building. So these Code Pink ladies, they know that these Congress people are going to be wandering around. They know these Congress people are going back and forth. And so they get up there in their face, and Tim Burchett's like, ma'am, I'm trying to make a video. I'm trying to make a video here. But they don't, it's like a sideshow. And depending on the day, there could be just 3 or 4 different types of protesters and rabble rousers and, evil, like just annoying people running around. There are parts of the Capitol building where you're only allowed if you are an elected official. For example, there's members only elevators, which means if you're a member, a congressperson or a senator, you can get in the elevator, and that way the rabble can't follow you into the elevator and down to wherever you're going. The tram, the little, there's the underground subway that takes you back and forth between the Capitol. That also is off limits to the public. You only have to be You have to be a member to ride that. There are parts of the Capitol Rotunda where you have to either be escorted by a member or their staff or have clearance. And then, of course, you can't just wander into the floor. You can't just wander into the House chambers or the Senate chambers unless it's January 6th and the cops just let you in. And then, of course, you get in trouble for it. And then, of course, you get in trouble for it. But the fact of the matter is, it is like that. So you could be doing a video, and all of a sudden, one of these pink ladies rolls up and starts interfering with you.
Hey, everybody, Tim Burchett. Hang on, I'm being harassed by the people in pink. Anyway, the committee had the Undersecretary, Secretary of State answering a lot of questions over various things. But, ma'am, I'm trying to do a video.
Oh, you're trying to do it?
Oh, ma'am, I'm trying to do a video. He's so polite about it. Ma'am, I'm trying to do a video here. You're ruining my video. No, I'm going to have to do another take. But here's the thing. He doesn't do another take. This is keeping it real. Tim Burchett, here, and I'm not going to name any names, okay? You can probably know who they are. There are other Congress people that would have been, at this point, harassed by this Code Pink woman. I don't know why. I'm getting them confused. Harassed by this woman. There's other people who would have stopped, said, okay, we got to do it again, gone back and started over. Tim Burchett keeps it real. He wants you to know everything. He wants you to see, like, warts and all, they say. And he wants you to know everything that's going on, every aspect of life at the Capitol building. That's what he wants you to know. And so he's going to leave it in, and he's going to show you exactly what's up. And that's why he's so well loved and so well respected. And that is why he keeps getting sent back to Congress by the folks of Tennessee. Now, there was yesterday a vote. Nancy Mace, who is an interesting character, she brought up a motion to subpoena Pam Bondi, and it was voted on by the Oversight Committee. And James Comer, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, was powerless to stop it because of the way that Nancy Mace brought it up. And it was voted on, and several Republicans voted in favor. So there was a bipartisan move to have Pam Bondi come forward and testify about the Epstein files in front of the Oversight Committee, which is weird because the Republicans are in charge of the Oversight Committee, and you would think that they would stop that kind of thing. But the other thing is, you would think that the Republicans would keep the Department of Justice out of their hearing via subpoena. Invite her to come, sure, which I think she's been invited to come, but she's politely declined. So now they're demanding that she come. And I guess she either has to show up or be in contempt of Congress, like Merrick Garland, who was also called up to testify in front of Congress and declined, thus putting him, in contempt. Maxwell Frost, who's from Orlando for now, hopefully that'll all change this year. Maxwell Frost, the congressman from Orlando, he was talking about the Epstein files yesterday too. This guy, I still don't know how he got to the Congress.
About a week ago, I attended President Clinton's deposition in New York last Friday. This deposition raised even more questions about President Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Let me explain why. First off, of course, President Clinton said that President Trump flew on the plane. But not just that, President Clinton also recounted a conversation he had with President Trump about Jeffrey Epstein on a golf course in New York in the early 2000s. He said that President Trump had told him that the reason him and Jeffrey Epstein had fallen out had to do with a real estate land dispute. This directly contradicts information that President Trump has stated in the past. He has claimed that their falling out was over spa workers at Mar-a-Lago.
It's spa workers at Mar-a-Lago. But my favorite part about this is how nobody's listening to him. He's sitting in an empty room. Usually when this happens, there's other people sitting around, but nobody cares about Maxwell Frost. This guy's so irrelevant that he's just sitting in an empty room doing absolutely nothing, and nobody gives two you-know-whats. Nobody gives two you-know-whats about it. Hakeem Jeffries, by the way, is adamant. He continues to push this narrative that Donald Trump is committing some kind of illegal act, that Donald Trump has unilaterally invaded Iran as a way to cover up for the Epstein files, something that is being parroted, of course, again by Thomas Massie and others. And he says, look, Donald Trump he needs to be stopped, that this action is illegal, unconstitutional, immoral, and we've got to do something about it. And Pete Hegseth was asked about that.
With respect to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' statement that the Iran mission will end in failure, what kind of message does that send to our enemies, and what does it do to the motivation of our troops?
Well, I've been through that movie before with the Democrats rooting against the country. Our generation saw that in our battlefields. I think it's pretty unprecedented and unfortunate that it would occur 4 days in to an operation where, as the chairman laid out, America's best are operating in an incredibly challenging environment where they're having incredible success, but they're meeting a determined adversary. And he's been privy to briefs that we've provided. He knows how effective this has been. He's being disingenuous, which we're used to.
We're used to Democrats rooting against America, which I got to be honest with you, it kind of does seem that way. It seems that way again. And this happens a lot. I mean, whenever the Democrats root against America, it seems like the Democrats are rooting against America. Why? Because the Democrats are rooting against America. It seems that way because it is that way. Here's a group of people who have been tasked with protecting the Constitution and the American people from all enemies, all threats, foreign and domestic, which these are both foreign and domestic threats. How is Iran a foreign threat? Well, they're foreigners. They're way over there. They're making nuclear weapons. And how are they a domestic threat? Well, because they have sleeper cells here. And God forbid they get one of those nuclear weapons. Boom. They're going to, instead of shooting into a nightclub or a bar in Austin and killing 4 or 5 Americans, they would take this nuclear weapon to Times Square and blow up millions of Americans. That's the goal That was always the goal. Death to America was not a cool, catchy slogan. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't just there. Like Donald Trump said, let's make America great again. And he meant it. And he ran on Make America Great Again. And he won on Make America Great Again. He said, okay, well, now I guess I got to make America great again. Iranians, they didn't really run because, their country's not like that. But they start every time they get into their, their meetings or their parliamentarian gatherings, whatever it is, they go, death to America, death to America. And then people are like, okay, prove it. And they're like, all right, now we gotta kill America. So it's not just a catchy slogan. It's their way of life. It's their mantra. It's their driving force. And for anyone to side against the person trying to stop that definitely seems like they're rooting against America. And Caroline Leavitt went after Caitlin Collins. We played this yesterday live, but it's worth playing it again because Caitlin Collins is not as direct in her hatred for America, but indirectly tries to twist the narrative, of course, the words of the Secretary of War, the words of the president in a way that turns American people, or they try to turn the American people against them.
Caitlin, you just mentioned that the president is going to attend the dignified transfer for these families. Given what Secretary Hegseth said this morning, is it the position of this administration that the press should not prominently cover the deaths of U.S. service members?
No, it's the position of this administration that the press in this room and the press across the country should accurately report on the success of Operation Epic Fury and the damage it is doing to the rogue Iranian regime that has threatened the lives of every single American in this room. If the Iranian regime had their choice, they would kill every single person in this room. And so we can all be very grateful that we have an administration and that we have men and women in our armed forces who are willing to sacrifice their own lives for the rest of us in this room and for every American across the country and for every troop that is based in the Middle East. That's what these...
Secretary Hegseth was complaining that it was front page news about these 6 service members who were killed.
That's not what the Secretary said, Caitlin, and that's not what the Secretary meant, and you know it. You know you are being disingenuous. There is not... We've never had a Secretary of Defense who cares more.
Drones get through or tragic things happen. It's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad.
Yeah,
as you know, we cover the deaths of U.S. service
members
under every president.
The press does only want to make the president look bad. That's a fact. Especially you. No, listen to me. Especially you and especially CNN. And the Secretary of Defense cares deeply about our war fighters and our men and women in uniform. He travels all across this country to meet with them, to connect with them, and your network has hardly ever probably reported on that. You also had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Chairman Kane, who's a brave patriot, standing alongside the secretary at the Pentagon this morning, again expressing his condolences to these families. And I just told you that the President of the United States will be attending their dignified transfer. So please,
That's not making the president look bad. That's showcasing that.
We expect you to cover that as you should. We expect you to cover that as you should, Caitlin. But you and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the president look bad. That is an objectable fact.
I don't think covering troop deaths is trying to make.
If you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree, and your ratings would tend to disagree with that as well.
Look at that. I mean, here's the thing: when the rest of the press briefing room laughs at you, you've probably missed the mark. When Caroline Leavitt lays into Caitlin Collins and the rest of the press briefing room just starts laughing, then you know that you're probably on the wrong side. You're probably on the wrong side of history. And Iran, they are... The amazing thing about this is the Democrats and the media and everybody alike, they're pushing this narrative, or they have this belief somehow that Iran is going to win, or that Iran can fight back, or that, we bombed them on Saturday morning, okay? Saturday morning. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's been 5 days. 5 days of constant bombardment and fighting. And the amount of weapons that Iran has left has been totally decimated. You've seen the boat go kaboom, right? Did you see John Fetterman was watching the boat go kaboom, and literally like a child, like a little boy getting excited by, a firecracker going off. He was watching it live, and he goes, boom. Well, and I gotta find this. I didn't have a time to. Yeah, here we go. Look, this is John Fetterman on the news, literally dictating or narrating what's happening with these explosions and things, and he loves it so much. And he's a Democrat. Keep that in mind. He's a Democrat. Listen to this. Here it is.
Now, I remember the Iranian generals were saying that our ships were going to end at the bottom of the ocean, and that's theirs. Like, look at that again. It's on the screen right now. Boom. You know, like, I love it. Now, I remember the... What kind of Democrat is this? What kind of Democrat is this that looks at... He's watching the screen, and he sees an Iranian... what is it? It's an Iranian... battleship, pardon me, or destroyer, I guess it is, one of those. And he sees it explode because of an American torpedo. He goes, look at that. Boom. I love it. Like, look at that again. It's on the screen right now. Boom. You know, like, I love it.
I love it. Boom. I mean, it's just crazy. So you got John Fetterman, and he's excited about it. And he's like, yeah, this is great. But CNN will do everything that they can to try to thwart. We're using torpedoes. That's World War II style weaponry. You know, we're not using missiles. We're not using lasers. We took out one of their largest battleships with an old school torpedo, and they couldn't stop it. And there are people out there trying to tell us that Iran's going to be able to outlast us, that they're going to fight back, that this is going to be a longer campaign than we originally expected. Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth was like, dude, he almost laughed at this question. He goes, there's no way they're going to win this war.
Iran cannot outlast us. We're going to ensure through violence of action and our offensive capabilities and our defensive capabilities, as I said, that we set the tone and the tempo of this fight. That's why stories and speculation about different things that try to make it look like we're limited in what we can do. The only limits we have in this is President Trump's desire to achieve specific effects on behalf of the American people. And that's why we don't talk about, you can say 4 weeks, but it could be 6, it could be 8, it could be 3. Ultimately, we set the pace and the tempo. The enemy is off balance, and we're going to keep them off balance. And we know their ability to shoot versus our ability to defend. That difference gets wider and wider every day. Our defense gets better. Their offensive capabilities diminish. As we are going into ammunitions that we, as we said, have tens of thousands of and can drop unlimited supplies on with even more effects than the standoff munitions we have now, which is why when we say the throttle's going up, the throttle's going up, and it's going to stay on high.
So that's Pete Hegseth saying, look, not only we control the pace of this. The only reason it's lasted as long as it has is because we wanted it to, and it'll last as long as it takes. But if we want to ramp it up, we're throttling up. And there's no way Iran's going to outlast us, especially since Iran is stupid. There's no way Iran can outlast us, especially since Iran is stupid. Think about this. Iran got attacked by Israel. No shocker there. We all knew that was going to happen. Got attacked by the United States. Also, no shocker. Donald Trump's been talking about that forever. And so that's expected. So Iran starts to attack Israel back. They start to fire rockets into Israel. No, we understand they've got the Iron Dome. It's working as well as it can. And it's just a barrage of missiles on Israel. And then they start attacking American bases and assets. But what else do? They start attacking neutral neighbors who had no dog in this fight, had no prior animosity toward Iran, and for centuries had just left Iran alone. But because they're now aligned with the United States, Iran targets them with these missile attacks. UAE, Dubai, Doha, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Jordan. I mean, it's everywhere. Any country that surrounds Iran, Azerbaijan. They just fired it was a drone or something, attacked the airport in Azerbaijan. Why would Iran attack Azerbaijan? Azerbaijan hasn't been attacking them. Azerbaijan has not been involved in this conflict. There's no American military jets flying out of Azerbaijan. They whether they don't know what they're doing, whether it was accidental or whether they're just throwing everything out there to try to see what they can hit. It's ridiculous. So now, not only are they not building a coalition of friendly neighbors and allies who could help them fight back the aggressive Americans and Israelis, they're making more enemies as they go along. And now you've got the Qatari warships or airships are shooting down these drones and these missiles. They're up in the air. And you've got Saudi Arabia, who's now adding military assets to the fight. And Greece, the other day, Greece had to shoot down a missile that was headed to Cyprus.
So think about this. This is now a massive European and Middle Eastern engagement against Iran. And the more countries that get involved, the less likely it is that China and or Russia and or North Korea will get involved. China, Russia, and North Korea, they right now want nothing to do with Iran. I mean, Russia's still fighting with Ukraine. China's still trying to boost their population because they're dwindling. And North Korea, I don't really know what they're doing. I haven't really heard from them. I heard a rumor. I didn't get any confirmation. I heard something that like Little Rocket Man said that if Iran asked them for a nuclear weapon, they'd give it to them so they could blow Israel off the face of the earth. But I think I don't know if that was true or not. I hadn't heard anything else about that. Stephen Miller's back. If you've been missing the Miller time, Stephen Miller's back, and he's raging against the machine.
He wasn't going to let Iran strike first. He wasn't going to let this regime make the first attack, as he feared and believed they would, on American soldiers and American troops. Wasn't going to happen. He was going to decapitate that regime. So whether you're talking about what we're doing to fight the drug cartels in the Western Hemisphere, if you're talking about the Maduro operation, if you're talking about Midnight Hammer or Operation Epic Fury, this is a president who's making clear the world's superpower will not shirk from doing what is necessary to protect the quality of life that every American has an absolute right to enjoy. This is a dangerous world. This is a world filled with adversaries. We are led by a man who knows what it takes to keep America prosperous and secure, Sean.
There you go. That's it. And cut to commercial, because that's the music. You know, it's the, hey, we got to get to commercial break. So that's exactly what was planned. That's exactly what's happening. And that is what's going on. Now, we have some breaking news. It appears that Kristi Noem is out as Department of Homeland Security Secretary. Hold on. Let me pull up the breaking news feed here. Let's see. I'm trying to log into Newsmaker. I'm seeing now Trump fires DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Appears to be the headline. Hang on, let me go here real quick and see what we can find. I'm going to pull up Fox News, see what's going on. This just came across the screen. This is something we'd heard that it might happen.
Looking at the announcement, though, and looking at the touting President Trump does of Markwayne McMillan's record, 10 years in the U.S. House of Representatives, 3 in the Senate.
Oh, Markwayne Mullen
says he's done a tremendous job with the people of Oklahoma. As the president pointed out, somewhere he did very well. So obviously this is breaking news. Just now, President Trump making the formal announcement that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem will be replaced, John.
Will, and also the president taking note of Markwayne Mullen's status as a former undefeated professional MMA fighter, also the only Native American in the Senate. Let's bring in Jackie Heinrich. She's at the White House. The timing of this, I guess, was a little bit of a surprise. We didn't expect it quite this soon, but it was certainly expected.
Well, you know, John, this president has been reluctant to shuffle his staff since really early in his second term when he moved National Security Advisor Mike Waltz over to Ambassador of the UN. Since then, he's kept all of his folks sort of in position, weathered whatever criticism comes their way. And Kristi Noem, the DHS Secretary, has faced a turbulent period in the last few weeks. Amid the fallout, the response to the ICE deportation campaign in Minnesota, some public statements that she made, and then most recently this week, her testimony on Capitol Hill, there were reports that her defense of her campaign, her ad campaign, $200 million in spending that prominently featured her sometimes on horseback, claiming that the president, according to these reports, had approved of that, reportedly upset him. He wasn't happy about giving the impression that he had sort of authorized that amid this broader administration effort to root out fraud. So she's being moved now into another role. The Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas, a new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere that they're announcing on Saturday. The president's been, defensive of Kristi Noem for the last several weeks as she's faced questions about her ability to carry out her duties. He regularly pointed to the success closing the southern border, the fact that there have been no illegal immigrants caught and released into the interior of the U.S. for several months, the fact that overdoses and murders are at historic lows, and pointed to those successes to sort of boost her up and defend keeping her in place. But it seems like that testimony on Capitol Hill might have been a turning point. There were also some reports that FEMA funding that was stalled suddenly came through after questioning. And so this is a rapid development, of course, and something we didn't expect until potentially after the midterms. This is a strange time for the president to make that major of a shakeup. But there was, sort of the writing on the wall after he elevated Tom Homan, his border czar, to take a more prominent role in the ICE deportation campaign. It's well reported that there's been a long-standing rift between Homan and Noem about how this should be handled, sort of the firmer approach versus the softer touch that Homan went in and sort of cleaned up amid all of that public scrutiny over what transpired in Minnesota. Of course, the policy still stands. The president's policy and the goal of deporting any illegal immigrant in the country and certainly prioritizing those who are guilty of crimes does still stand. But the president faced questioning about how much he wanted to defend her. And it seems in the past few weeks that that patience might have worn out.
Yeah, a little bit more about his replacement. Seems to be how when President Trump made the announcement, the focus seemed to be on his record, Jackie. This is somebody, obviously, he's putting his full support behind in making this announcement.
That's right. And Markwayne Mullin is very well liked. He does a lot of TV. He's articulate and, certainly has a lot of relevant experience. Haven't had a chance to read through everything in this very long truth, darted up to the camera as soon as we saw it come out, or make any calls to any other officials to find out more of what has gone on, sort of the background thinking that we might not know from all of the reports that have surfaced.
I have it here. I have it here. So this was what President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social here just moments ago before this broke. I am pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin, will become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security effective March 31st, 2026. The current Secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and who has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to be our special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere we are announcing on Saturday in Doral, Florida. I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland. Serving 10 years in the United States House of Representatives and 3 in the Senate, Markwayne has done a tremendous job representing the wonderful people of Oklahoma, where I won all 77 out of 77 counties in 2016, 2020, and 2024. A MAGA warrior and former undefeated professional MMA fighter, Markwayne truly gets along well with people and knows the wisdom and courage required to advance our America First agenda. As the only Native American in the Senate, Markwayne is a fantastic advocate for our incredible tribal communities. Markwayne will work tirelessly to keep our borders secure, stop migrant crime, murderers, and other criminals from illegally entering our country, end the scourge of illegal drugs, and make America safe again. Markwayne will make a spectacular Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, Markwayne Mullin will be out of the Senate, and he will be in to the Department of Homeland Security for the remainder of President Donald Trump's term. All of this, now keep in mind, all of this while we still have a shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. One might wonder if removing Kristi Noem from her position was one of the negotiating points or one of the things the Democrats asked for in reopening the government. Because think about this. The Department of Homeland Security has been shut down for a while now. They had been shut down for 2 weeks almost, and TSA is getting frustrated and the Border Patrol is getting frustrated. And keep in mind, we also now have an ongoing conflict with Iran, and there's sleeper cells and there's all kinds of, things that need to happen to keep Americans safe wherever they may be. And Department of Homeland Security could be the most important department we have right now, and they're the ones that are not working. So negotiating with the Democrats, trying to get them to reopen the Department of Homeland Security or refund the Department of Homeland Security. Maybe they came to the table with a list of demands and maybe getting rid of Kristi Noem, whom they've never liked ever. Maybe that was one of the demands that they came up with. Maybe they said, we will do this. We will reopen the DHS, but you need a new Department of Homeland Security secretary. And I don't know if Markwayne Mullin was their choice, but Kristi Noem was never their choice. And it seems like at this point, she may be taking the fall as part of a negotiating tactic to get this DHS back open. Now, there's no word on whether or not the DHS is going to open back up. Let's see if Fox News is talking about that at all.
Simple majority, the way they changed the Senate precedent several years ago, guys.
Wait a minute. Here we go.
Okay, Chad Pergram on that for us. Chad, thank you so much. Let's bring in Hugh Hewitt, a Fox News contributor, host of the Hugh Hewitt Show. Hugh, jump on in here as we note that the governor of Oklahoma, Stitt, gets to make an interim appointment here. A special election will be called to coincide with the next available regularly scheduled primary, runoff primary, and general election. Your thoughts as we get the news?
Well, I think this is very good for the administration. People forget we're in a war with Iran right now, and the Department of Homeland Security is responsible for those parts of Hezbollah and other terror proxies in the United States that might be organizing some kind of reprisal. It is time for our tough, very tough president to have a very tough guy over at DHS who will take seriously the business of protecting America. Now, Governor Noem, then Secretary Noem, did a good job closing the border, but the border wall is behind. It's not getting built. More important, right now, all eyes on those people who might present a harm to the American people by way of their being extensions of the terror network. So I think Markwayne Mullin, very, very well liked within the Senate. He will be easily confirmed. Two traditions in the Senate that will never die: blue slips on district court judges and senators get confirmed. All right, so this is not a question of his getting confirmed. Chris Coons might give you a good quote about how you can't do worse than Kristi Noem. But the fact of the matter, senators get confirmed. So he's going to be right through the process. He'll be in charge of DHS in a couple of weeks. And that's very good for this period of time when they don't need controversy. They need seriousness of purpose, especially to the threat inside the United States to the extent it exists from Iran's proxies.
Yeah, the appointment's supposed to take effect on the 31st of this month. I assume that the Senate Majority Leader John Thune will quickly get on board confirmation proceedings in the Homeland Security Committee. One of the things that's going to be on Markwayne Mullin's plate, this is what we originally brought you on to talk about, is this person in Virginia, Abdul Jallo, who had a...
Oh, my period. That was it. That's okay. We're done with Fox anyway. So that was perfect timing. They were moving on to a different subject, and we can move on. So there you go. Breaking news: Kristi Noem out as the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, and Markwayne Mullin. Which, by the way, Mark Wayne is one word. I'm pretty sure it's not Mark Wayne like that's his middle name. His name is Mark Wayne. Yeah, if you look at it, it's one of those interesting things that it took me a while to realize. But it's Mark Wayne is his name. You know, his name's not Mark, and his middle name's not Wayne. It's Mark Wayne. What's up, Mark Wayne? Markwayne Mullin, United States Senator, former MMA fighter, congressman, and now he's going to be the Homeland Security chief. Now, again, this was something that we'd heard grumblings of. I'm still a little shocked that Pam Bondi has a job and Kristi Noem doesn't, but this is also very interesting when you look at the cabinet, because let's take a look at the rest of the cabinet, because Donald Trump has not really made any big moves in his cabinet with the exception of Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz was a national security advisor, and we all, you remember the thing with the Signal chat, and you remember the texting, putting the guy from the Atlantic or on magazine on there, and everyone's like, wait, what's happening? Why am I on this top secret Signal chat? So that was kind of an issue. And then, Donald Trump didn't fire Mike Waltz. He said, you know what? I think you would be better off being the UN ambassador. And Mike Waltz, I'll be honest with you, has been doing a great job as the UN ambassador. Kristi Noem is going to be in charge of this, whatever this thing is they created. Let me read this. I got to read the Truth again because he put it in the Truth Social post. Let me go real quick here and take a look. Yeah, so here's Donald Trump. Kristi Noem will, hang on. I gotta again, breaking news as always. Will be moving to the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. The Shield of the, that kind of sounds like a made up thing that they made just for her. I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, no, it sounds great. It sounds great.
Kristi Noem served us well. She was great on the border. Now she's going to be the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. So whatever that entails, I imagine that'll be an offshoot of the Department of Homeland Security. So there you go. Congratulations, Kristi Noem, on your move to the Shield of the Americas, the new security initiative that seems like it was just made just for you so that you would peacefully leave. Because nobody wants to get fired, right? Like, you don't want to fire somebody. Donald Trump doesn't like to fire people, which is ironic because he had a show where all he did was fire somebody every week. But nowadays, he's not firing anyone. He's moving them to these new initiatives. He's moving them to a different department. He'd be well suited. I'm a little shocked, by the way, that Marco Rubio was not chosen to fill in as Secretary of Homeland Security while Kristi Noem was gone, because that's typically what happens. He's still the NSA, I think, among all these other things. But it's really got to make the rest of the cabinet now look around and go, whoa, we're a year in. We're a little over a year in now, right? Donald Trump got back to the office January 20th of 2025. It's now March of 2026, a little over a year. And maybe, a little bit of the newness is worn off. A little bit of the excitement is gone. We were the dream team for a while, but we need to make sure now that there's controversy, now that there's stuff happening, now that there's bad press, now that you have ICE agents being hated because of what they're doing in Minneapolis, now that you have, all these issues, now that the Department of Homeland Security has been defunded, now that you are also looking at what's happening with the overall look of the United States of America, we've got to really take a serious look at this. And you doing these multi-million-dollar ad campaigns, and you doing these, buying this plane with the bed in it, and having this relationship with Corey Lewandowski, whatever it is, all that, it's a bad look. It's a bad look. So we're going to look at Markwayne Mullin, who, as far as I know, has never had a relationship with Corey Lewandowski. I'm not sure, though. I can't guarantee that he hasn't. I'm pretty sure he hasn't, but I don't know for sure. Like, I can't 100% effectively come to you and say this man has never had any kind of relationship with Corey Lewandowski, the way that Kristi Noem may or may not have had. Listen, it's going to be interesting, but like I said, now you're looking around. You're looking at the cabinet going, okay, who else? Who else has been on the chopping block? Who else has maybe not been pulling their weight? There's been a lot of, look, I know there's a lot of people who are probably safe. I know that Howard Lutnick's not going anywhere. I know that, maybe not. Maybe he's not going anywhere. I know that Doug Burgum is well liked. I'm pretty sure Pete Hegseth is safe, even though there've been rumblings about, the media doesn't like him. And so but they're just mad because he threw them all out of the Pentagon and he brought in Laura Loomer. But there's all kinds of Chris Wright, the energy secretary, which I thought was weird. I heard rumblings that Chris Wright was going to be out. I go, why? What has Chris Wright done? The energy secretary, he's totally fine. There's absolutely no problem with it. But it looks like Donald Trump's got his solid staff, and it looks like he's getting people on the right page, and he's adding pieces and taking a look around strategically, as you do. When you're a businessman, when you're in charge, when it's your call, when you need to make sure that things get done, when you need to make sure you have the best people in place, then these are the kinds of things that you have to do. And this is what Donald Trump is doing. He's making sure that strategically he has the right pieces in place to get the job done, and do it in a way that does not, again, belittle or detract from his political capital or the Republican Party heading into what is going to be a very important midterm election, one where the Democrats already seem like they may have an advantage. Listen, speaking of being strategic and speaking of making great decisions, if you have not yet decided to get your free gold guide at markswealthstrategy.com to investigate how your money and your financial future could be protected with a gold IRA from Augusta Precious Metals, I don't know what you're waiting for. markswealthstrategy.com. markswealthstrategy.com. There's a link in the show notes. Go there and get your free gold guide, because what it does is it just gives you the information. Information is power. And so you can take this information and you can use it to figure out where you are now, and more importantly, where you will be when you move your $50,000 or more into a gold-based IRA from the most trusted premier gold IRA company, Augusta Precious Metals. Go to markswealthstrategy.com right now. Get your free gold guide. There's absolutely no
Like, look, there's absolutely, you're just giving us your email so we can get you the gold guide. You can call if you'd prefer to. There's a phone number on there as well. You can talk to somebody directly, 844-963-4677. If you're one of those people that likes to talk to people, then have at it, 844-963-4677. That's another great way. That's another great way you can do it. But either way, make sure you get this information because it's pertinent. It's very important to your future, your financial future, your family's future, that you have your money working for you in the best way possible. And the best way possible is a gold IRA from Augusta Precious Metals, available at markswealthstrategy.com. All right. It looks like, wait, is Kristi Noem speaking? Is this live? It looks like Kristi Noem's speaking live. Hold on. Let me go to that real quick and see what she's saying. Here we go. Is she talking live? Is this live? Hold on. I may have to go actually to my TV. Hold on. Let me sign in with my TV provider here real quick. And we should be good to go. There we go. All right. Let's listen in as Kristi Noem is speaking. What happened? Oh, here we go.
And what they do across the country to keep people safe. The department was formed after the horrific events on 9/11, and just 2 years later, as Congress put the department together with the support of the president, 23 different agencies who had a nexus and a focus on defending the homeland were put in order to make sure that they were all following the same mission every single day. So it's a very diverse department. It not only has FLETC in it that trains over 130 different federal law enforcement agencies and officers from those agencies. It also includes CBP, ICE, CWMD, which is Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction. So some of you may have gone through some of those trainings to help us detect some of the threats here in our homeland, and also some of the trainings that it takes as far as responding to fires and 911 calls in different specific situations. We have intelligence agencies. We also cover FEMA. FEMA is a disaster response agency, but it also is the agency that's entrusted to run the government on our very worst day. If we had a tragedy in this country where we needed someone to step up because our leadership was not able to, that agency would be entrusted to do that and to maintain our critical infrastructure. So they ensure that they go forward and maintain our electrical grid and our critical infrastructure such as water and systems that we rely on every day to help the American people be safe and to still have their way of life. We also have CISA, which some of you may have worked with them, which is our cybersecurity agency, which goes out and not only hunts down bad actors that would attack us on our cyber systems, but also gives us mitigation measures for how we can harden our systems. All of these entities work together to serve the American people and to make sure that we're prepared for any threats that we may face, but also respond to them in a way that honors what our ideals are. The sacred duty of our government truly is that people are entrusted to secure the rights also of all the American people. You know, the Declaration of Independence states that governments derive their powers from the consent of the governed, which is the people. The people give us the right to do our jobs each and every day. Yeah. And as long as this world is fractured and as long as human nature is fallen, we will need brave men and women who step up and serve and enforce our rights and our laws and our values. And that's what all of you do in this room with your colleagues.
So she's speaking at an event.
The heroism was on full display this last week when we saw the attack in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, so she's speaking at an event, but so this is really, I don't know if this was timed appropriately, but President Donald Trump put out the announcement that she's being fired. She's now giving a speech in Nashville, Tennessee, and it appears that, I don't know if she's mentioned the fact that she's leaving yet, or if that's the part we missed, or if that's coming up. But apparently she's giving a speech to a group of individuals who are under her, or were under her, I guess still are, at the Department of Homeland Security. Let's listen in a little bit longer.
In their beds at night only because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalves, which means you step up in order to protect people, and you do it in a way that other people often are never going to be required to. When tragedies like what we saw in Austin take place, it's your leadership and it's your decision making that make all the difference. You use judgment, and people entrust you with their lives. You're on the front lines of leadership, and you have the responsibility of guiding and also shaping the next generation. So we thank you for that, and we thank you for what you do. I know that I've met many of you in the room. I've had the chance to visit with you. I appreciate your wisdom and your advice as we continue to develop trainings and insight into how leadership can work together to make good decisions and to break down the silos between agencies so that we can work together more different, in better ways than we have in the past. And you know we're seeing challenges across the country from judges and courts that are working to stop some of our efforts, that are looking to take away some of the protection.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to mention anything about her getting fired, which, I mean, I wouldn't either. And it doesn't seem like it's the venue. But that is the breaking news today. Kristi Noem out as the Secretary of Homeland Security. Good luck to her. We'll see. We need to go see the Kalshi odds on who's next. I still thought it was going to be Pam Bondi, but it may not be. Now that she's been subpoenaed by the House of Representatives, she may be next on the chopping block, but we'll take some bets and we'll see who it is. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe to this channel because, like I said, whenever there's breaking news, we're going to be here to break it. Subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you're watching every single day. Make sure you're getting all the content every single day, and make sure no matter what happens, you listen to whatever we can tell you, because we're going to bring you the truth. We're not going to bring you the propaganda. We're not going to bring you the lies or the media spin. We're going to let you know exactly what you need to know to stay safe, to stay secure, to stay informed, to stay enlightened, to stay ready, willing, and able to fight so we can